Hello students, Mr. Sims here. We've got a couple things before we start today's lesson is making sure that your book is on page 53 and you're going to need your calculator because in today's lesson we're going to show you how to use the calculator to actually do this math. All right. So day 6 is titled Combining Rational Numbers. Okay. The lesson objective for today, I can combine rational numbers. Pretty self-explanatory. So the first question you may ask is, what is a rational number? So if we're going to combine these things, we should understand what they are. Well, for all intents and purposes, a rational number is basically fractions and decimals. The true definition of a rational number is any number that is a fraction. That's the technical definition of a rational number. It's any number that's a fraction. So clearly anything that's a fraction is a rational number. And then some decimals that we have, like the decimal 0.5, really refers to 5 out of 10. So any decimal that terminates or stops is considered. Okay. Also repeating decimals, like 0.3 that repeats, is the same fraction as 1/3. All right, so those are considered rational numbers. Irrational numbers is something we say for later on in math. Okay, so example number 1, we're going through a real-world connection to combining rational numbers. Okay, so suppose a 7th grader's birthday is today, and she's 12 years old. How old was she 3.5 years ago? All right, there is a number line here if you need it, but if you think about it, starting at 12 years old, 3.5 years ago. All right. Now here's one thing that is nice about if you were to do the subtraction by hand, okay, or combining a positive 12 with a negative 3.5, you could do this in 2 steps. The first step would be doing 12 minus 3, which is 9, and then taking off an additional half, which would put us at 8 1/2. All right. But on a calculator, pretty straightforward. 12 minus 3, ABC1, ABC2, 8.5. Right. So, okay, the next 3 are just kind of some basic problems, but it involves the rules if we're thinking about it. So find the following value and represent it on the number line below. All right. We don't need to do the number line if you don't want to, but actually I will on this one because I like this. So essentially what's happening is we're combining a negative 2 1/2 with a positive 5. Okay. So let's think about this. Negative 2 1/2 on a number line is right there. Negative 2 1/2. Okay? And if I go plus 5, I'm going 5. So right now, because I'm halfway between, every time I go to the right one, so if I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'm at positive 2 1/2. But, once again, watch this. I would try, now here's what's nice think about this with calculators. There is a difference between when you use the minus button versus when you use the minus button versus when you use the negative button. If the problem that you're typing into your calculator starts off negative, you have to use the negative button. So to do this one on the calculator, I go negative 2, ABC1, ABC2. And you'll notice that the negative actually looks more like a negative. It's a little bit of a smaller button. It's not quite as long. All right, and then we're going to plus 5. And you see that we get the same answer we get on a number line. All right. Okay. Hey, find the following value represent a number line. We got 1 minus 2 1/4. So if I were to do this on a number line, it would be 1 to the right. And then I'd go left 1, 2 1/4. So it'd actually be right there. But, you know, if we're being honest, I've come to the realization that once I give you the go and say you can use a calculator, you're going to do this 1. Now, this one, the negative is here. So you would, if it's inside here, you press the negative button or the subtraction button. Actually, I'm sorry, apologize for that. So this is 1 minus 2, ABC1, ABC4, and you get negative 1 1/4. Okay. Then there's this one. If we were doing this by hand, you would take this and make it a plus 8. Okay? But once again, we can put this whole thing in the calculator. Right? Now, when you start with a negative, you use the negative button. So it'll be negative 5 ABC 1 ABC 2 minus. Now, when you're using the calculator, if you're going to type in the original expression, if there's a set of parentheses, you have to put it in. Okay? If you're going to make this change and go negative 5.5 plus 8, then you type this in. But I know what most of you are going to do. You're just going to type it in right here because you don't want to have to circle and change that to a plus. Right? So here's what it looks like. Negative 5 ABC 1 ABC 2. And you're using the minus button. Now, in parentheses, anything that's in parentheses is the negative button. So you have to press the negative 8. Okay? If you hit the minus button again there, it's going to give you this syntax error. Right? And hit enter, and you're at 2 1/2. Right. So as a checkpoint for the first part of today's lesson, you're going to take a look at some problems on the next couple of pages. So page 54, there's a bunch of them. We're not going to do every single one of them. We're just going to focus on the problems that are down here below. Okay? And then we're going to turn, so this is page 54, we're going to turn to page 55. And you're going to look at these 4 at the bottom of that page. These are the ones you're going to do. Okay? And I'm fine with you just punching them in the calculator. As a matter of fact, I'm going to model one from each page. So I'm going to start here with number 9, what this is going to look like on a calculator. Okay? As I said, if you are going to use a calculator to do this, because keep in mind, if you don't use a calculator, you got to get a common denominator, so parentheses. If it's inside parentheses, you press the negative button. Negative 4 ABC 5. Close parentheses. Now it's in here. This is a minus. You use the minus when it separates them. 7 ABC 8. We get negative 1 and 27/40. Okay. So your checkpoint will be doing the rest of these. All right. Turn into page 55 now. Okay. Let's take a look at any of these. Okay. Let's do 22. All right. Clear. All right, so starting with a negative, parentheses, so negative 1, ABC 3, ABC 4, close parenthesis. Now, you can do this plus minus thing on the calculator, plus parentheses, but that minus is inside, so this one you'd have to press the negative button. Negative 3, ABC 3, ABC 4, close parentheses, it equals, we get negative 5 1/2. All right, so that is the end of this first video. There will be a second video as an extension. So, for recorded lessons in day 6 of Module 2, this is Mr. Sims signing off.